So we're going to start things off by recognizing a few folks in the SEBA and VOLTA community, really who we call outstanding contributors to this work. This is the first year that we are having these awards. And so this work basically recognizes contributions that have been going on in the VOLTA project for the last 2.5 years, as well as the SEBA project and its predecessor, the RCORD work. So without much ado, I'd like to invite Matt, who's standing actually right next to me, as one of the contributors that we recognize as part of this work. I've known Matt for a long time, since 2016, actually, when we first started our RCORD work, and we headed to Atlanta and brought that up in Troy's house, actually. Yep. I remember that. And then since then, Matt has been involved with SEBA and more recently with VOLTA, and did a lot of great work in VOLTA 2.0's adapter containerization. So please recognize Matt as an outstanding contributor.
Thank you.
Well,
I appreciate it.
Okay, the second person that we'd like to recognize is Shad Ansari from ONF. Is he here? I asked him to be here, but that's okay. I will accept this award on behalf of Shad. Shad has made really amazing contributions to VOLTA, starting off with his work in what used to be known as the Edge Core adapter, or ASF Volt adapter, that eventually led into OpenOLT adapter, and that's being used by all the operators involved with the VOLTA project. So thanks again to Shad. Our next person we'd like to recognize is Girish Gaudru from Radisys. Girish and Radisys have had a long history of contributions to VOLTA. And even VOLTA 2.0, the new version of VOLTA that you will hear about today. And Girish's contributions specifically to technology profiles work that has come out has been really, really good for the VOLTA community, filled a very big gap that we had in VOLTA and not being able to configure all the QoS parameters and per subscriber bandwidth profiles and so on. So please recognize Girish Gaudru from Radisys. Can someone from Radisys accept this award on his behalf? Okay. Sean Misset, thank you.
You want him to come up?
Yeah.
Sure, I'm getting lonely up here.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
I'll give it to him.
Yeah. The next person we'd like to recognize, it's a big community, there's a lot of awards that we'd like to hand out, is Gamze Abaka from Netsia. Gamze's involvement with ONOS and VOLTA it's actually many years that she's been involved with this work, and primarily in bringing out all the features that we use in VOLTA on the ONOS side, right? So VOLTA is not standalone software. It has to be used with an SDN controller. We use ONOS, and Gamze has written a lot of the ONOS contributions when used by VOLTA. Is there anyone from Netsia or Argela who can accept this award on behalf of Gamze? Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I've seen Maher and Sarkant around. Okay. Next person we'd like to recognize is Ken from Siena. Ken has been instrumental in the VOLTA core development, first in the first version of VOLTA, what we call the 1.x branch, and more importantly in the new version of VOLTA. Again, you will hear a lot about it. So if someone from Siena, hey David, can you please accept this award on behalf of Ken? Okay. I will pass it down. Yeah.
Kent is here.
Kent is here.
Kent
Yeah.
is here, yeah.
Thank you. And finally, I'd like to recognize someone on the SEBA level from ONF, Matteo Scandolo, who has had a lot of contributions to SEBA, beyond Volta. I like to think of Matteo as a full stack guy. Whenever there's a problem in any part of SEBA, the first person I turn to is Matteo. So when he goes on vacation, it makes me very nervous. But thank you.
You're not the only one that turns to.
It's not signed there. One day the autograph.
Okay. Well, okay, so thanks to all the contributors. We recognize them, and we hope that more contributions come in over the next year, and at the next ONF Connect, we'll have more awards. So now I'd like to pass off to Matt to tell you a little bit about the whole track over the 3 days. We had lots of great contributions for the tracks. There were 28. Unfortunately, we had to cut it down. We could only fit about 18 talks. So Matt,
Sure.
over to you.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to take another moment to recognize the ONF engineering team. Just if you've worked in the community and you've dealt with Jenkins, you've dealt with Garrett, you've dealt with all the, I would say the more unglorious parts of kind of getting things working, but so dependent on them to keep things going. And I'd like to say thank you guys. Really appreciate
Thank you.
all the work you've done, all the dealings with. So anyway, yeah, like Saurav said, the SEBA track had a lot of interest from contributors to talk, so we kind of had a bit of work to go through to figure out which ones we went with. So we started with thinking, well, maybe we need to kind of stick to some themes. So the track themes generally are broken down to 3 areas. The big one, of course, we're all talking about now is production integration. So there's some items there for how to work and carry your production environments. The next one's development and APIs. So some sections on working with the actual source code, working with the environment. And then the third one is really kind of categorized in usage scenarios, different deployment options. Production integration, we're moving past POC, right? We finally got to the point where generally things have proven, and we've tried things out with Volt, and we've learned what we need to do to integrate. So we need to kind of start looking at stabilization. We need to start looking at scale. So the good news is now a lot of interest is there, and the talks are, the next few days are going to cover a lot of that. Roadmap as well, obviously we have to kind of understand where we're going, so we're also going to cover both from a community point of view and then from some of the carriers' point of view what their roadmap is and what they plan on doing with SEBA, with Volta. Also some environments, features, and scalability. There's a talk of the new tech profile. There's talk of how to introduce these new features into a production environment. Also upgrade lifecycle, installation lifecycle. There's now that we're working in a production environment, we have this software that's going to run for more than a couple days, and we actually need to know how to upgrade it. We need to know how to let it run, and we need to know how to work with it. So there's some good talks from NEM on how to do that. And then a big one that I think a lot of operators can relate to is integration with adjacent systems, B&Gs, working with other business units, working with commercial partners. A few talks from some of these commercial partners on what that looks like and how we're going to make that work. Development and APIs, again, technology profile was a big push this year, so that was released with Volta 1.7 and SEBA 2.0, and the NEM APIs in working with SEBA 2.0. Also some talks on the Kubernetes in a development environment. Kubernetes is the deployment platform of choice now. It has won out, so everyone is now moving towards working with that and the challenges in dealing with Kubernetes in a development environment. And again, service lifecycle and upgrades, again, the boring parts, as has been said, as David has said, what do we do with this long-running software and how do we manage it? And then finally, usage scenarios. This is where we have inputs from other operators, the introduction of the B&G. The pod now needs the ability to manage the other half of the access policy. So there's a couple of good talks on B&G and P4. And then there's also a talk on more than just PON. There's a talk from some of the Comcast folks who've worked with Comcast on their DOCSIS setup and Trellis and integrating PON and DOCSIS together. So that one might be pretty good. And then there's finally alternative hardware configuration management. A lot of operators want to build their environment to suit their needs, maybe with more compute, maybe with compute using ARM, maybe with microplug OLTs. and then also managing it from you know, redfish or other OCP type scenarios. So there's a few good talks on kind of how to integrate these new or different usage scenarios in the setup. And with that, that's the themes of the track. Hopefully you guys will enjoy some of the things that we picked, and please hang around. But that is it for me.